Regex can look like random symbols, but in real Python projects, it solves very practical problems. In this video, you'll see 13 short examples that show how to extract, validate, clean, and transform text with Python regex. We start with input validation, where regex is useful when you need a quick format check before data moves deeper into your app. When a user signs up, you often want to reject obviously broken email input before saving it. Here we compile a simple email pattern and use full match, so the whole input must fit the rule. Now we run the script and check which sample emails are accepted. Let's break down why this works. Full match only succeeds when the complete string matches the pattern, so a valid-looking email hidden inside bad text would still be rejected. The missing at sign, missing domain space, and missing dot in the domain all fail the rule. Now we show the practical rule to remember. Use regex as a first format check, not as a real email verification system. If your app needs confidence that an email exists, send a confirmation link or use a dedicated validation flow. For a quick variation, add a few company-specific email rules yourself. Try accepting subdomains like team.example.com, then decide what your application should do with unusual but possible email formats. Next, we move from validation to extraction, where regex helps pull structured values out of messy text. When notes are pasted from calls or CRM records, phone numbers may appear in a few different formats. Here we write one pattern for the formats we accept, then call findAll to pull every match from the block of text. Now we run the script and confirm that order IDs and shortcodes are ignored. Let's break down the result. findAll scans the whole string and returns every phone-shaped value it can find. The lookarounds help stop the pattern from grabbing a phone number from the middle of a longer number. Now we show the safer approach. Decide the phone formats your product accepts before you write the pattern. A regex that is too broad will happily capture order numbers, invoice IDs, and other data that is not a phone number. For practice, add one dotted number and one long tracking number to the notes. Update the regex only if the dotted phone number should be valid, and make sure the tracking number still stays out. Now we clean user text before storage, which is one of the most common places regex appears in real backend code. This is useful before saving names, comments, or imported CSV fields to a database. We replace every run of whitespace with one space, then strip the outside edges. Now we run it and see each messy string become a clean single-line value. Let's break down the pattern. The whitespace class catches spaces, tabs, and line breaks, and the plus sign groups repeated whitespace together. That is why the replacement runs once per messy block, not once per character. Now we show the small detail that makes this production-friendly. Keep the strip call. Without it, a name with spaces around it would still look clean inside, but the stored value would keep invisible junk at the edges. For practice, remove strip for one run and look carefully at the repar output. Then add a string with multiple blank lines and confirm it still becomes one clean sentence. The next pattern is lightweight parsing, where regex helps handle simple input that has flexible separators. This comes up when small internal tools read logs that are consistent enough to parse, but not clean enough for a single split character. We create one separator pattern for pipes, commas, or repeated spaces. Now we run the script and turn each log line into a dictionary. Let's break down the important part. The separator can match several delimiter styles, but max split limits the split to the first three separators. That keeps the final message as one field, even if the message itself later contains spaces. Now we show the boundary for this technique. Use it for simple, predictable machine text. If the log format has quoting, escaping, nested data, or many edge cases, switch to a real parser or a structured format like JSON logs. For a quick variation, add a message like payment failed, retry queued. Keep max split at 3 and check that the message still stays together. Finally, in this batch, we use groups to extract named pieces from a match instead of only asking whether a pattern matched. This is useful when you process exported reports like sales files, inventory snapshots, or traffic reports. We search each file name for a date and use named groups to pull out the year, month, and day. Now we run it and print normalized dates only for matching field names. Let's break down the group usage. Each named group captures one meaningful part of the date, so later code can ask for year, month, and day directly. That is easier to maintain than remembering that group 1 is the year and group 3 is the day. Now we show the better habit for real code. Use named groups when the extracted values have business meaning. It makes the regex result self-documenting and reduces mistakes when someone changes the code later. For practice, support field names that use underscores instead of dashes between the date parts, then test both sales 2026-07-17.csv and sales 2026-07-17.csv with the same extraction code. Now we move into parsing patterns that stay readable when the text has many fields. Access logs are a perfect place for named groups because each line has several fields we want to keep. Here we compile one pattern for IP, method, path, status, and byte count. Now we run the script and print every valid line as a dictionary. Let's break down why this works well. The match object keeps the field names from the regex and groupdict turns them into normal Python data. That means the rest of the program does not care which capturing group was first or fifth. The best practice here is to use named groups whenever a regex extracts several fields from one record. It makes the pattern slightly longer, but it makes the parsing code much easier to read and review. Next, we use regex not just to find data, but to safely transform it before it leaves the application. Logs often need enough detail for debugging, but not enough detail to expose secrets. Here we search for card-like numbers, then let a function decide exactly how to replace each match. Now we run it and compare the original lines with the redacted versions. Let's look at the important part. A plain replacement string cannot count digits or preserve the last four numbers. A callback can inspect the match, normalize it, and return the safest replacement. The best practice is to redact sensitive data before logs leave the process. Once full secrets reach a file, queue, or monitoring system, cleanup becomes much harder. Now we parse repeated key-value pairs from strings that are structured but not quite JSON. Webhook metadata, CLI output, and old config lines often look like this. We will match each key and value, including quoted values, then build a normal dictionary. Now we run it and check the structured output. Let's break down the loop. FindIter gives us every repeated match, not just the first one. That is why one input line can turn into 3 separate dictionary entries. The best practice is to choose FindIter when you need more than a list of strings. It keeps the match object available, so the parsing code stays explicit and easy to extend. Next, we validate several rules at once without consuming characters from the input. When a password has several requirements, look-aheads let us check them independently. This pattern asks for lowercase, uppercase, a digit, a special character, and at least 8 characters. Now we run the sample passwords and print which ones pass. Let's break down why the output makes sense. The weak passwords each miss at least one requirement even if they match some others. The valid examples satisfy every locale, then the full string length check passes. The best practice is to use this kind of regex for the rule check, but not as the whole user experience. In a real app, tell the user which requirement failed instead of only saying the password is invalid. Finally, we use backreferences to detect text that repeats right next to itself. Repeated words are common in generated drafts and quick transcripts. We capture one word, then use a backreference to check whether the next word is the same. Now we run the cleanup and compare each sentence before and after. Let's explain the important detail. The pattern only matches whole words that repeat with white space between them. That is why test stays untouched. It is one word, not 2 adjacent copies. The best practice is to keep the word boundaries in this kind of cleanup pattern. They protect you from changing text inside longer words, which is exactly the kind of quiet bug that is hard to notice. Now we move into multi-line matching, where regex has to work across real log files instead of one neat line at a time. In real applications, one error is often spread across several lines, especially when a traceback is involved. Here we create a log with normal NFO lines, 2 error sections, and recovery messages. The important part is the compiled pattern. It starts at an error line, crosses multiple lines, and stops before the next timestamped log line. Now we run the script and check that only the error blocks are printed. Let's break down why this works. Multiline lets the pattern recognize the start of every log line, and Dotal lets the match include tracebag lines after the error. The lazy part captures as little as possible, and the locale says, stop before the next timestamped log entry or the end of the string. The best approach here is to always give multiline regex a clear start and a clear stop condition. Use this when parsing logs, reports, or generated text where one record can span many lines. Without those boundaries, One unexpected line can make the regex consume half the file. Next, we look at repeated processing, where compiled patterns make validation code easier to read and reuse. When you validate thousands of imported records, repeating raw regex strings everywhere becomes messy fast. In this example, we compile patterns for order IDs, email addresses, and zip codes once at the top. Then the loop uses those named patterns to collect valid records and explain why each bad row failed. Now we run it and look at the clean validation summary. Let's break down the result. 2 rows pass all 3 checks and 3 rows fail for different reasons. Because the compiled patterns have names, the validation loop reads almost like plain English. Check order ID, check email, check zip. The best practice is to compile reused patterns close to the code that owns that input format. This is better than scattering raw regex strings across the project because future edits happen in one place. Use names like email panel or order ID panel so the intent is obvious before anyone reads the regex itself. Finally, we cover regex safety, because one unsafe pattern can make production code slow or even block a request. Some regex patterns look harmless but become dangerously slow on crafted input. Here, the risky pattern uses nested quantifiers, while the safe pattern uses one direct repetition. We time both patterns against a valid string and a crafted invalid string that fails only at the last character. Now we run it and compare the categories of elapsed time. Let's break down the slowdown. The risky pattern can split the same run of a characters in many different ways because one repeating group is inside another repeating group. When the final exclamation mark makes the match fail, the engine tries those alternatives before giving up. The best practice is to design regex for bad input, not just happy path input. Use simpler patterns when possible, avoid nested ambiguous quantifiers, and cap the size of user-controlled text before running regex on it. Apply this especially in web endpoints, import jobs, and background workers that process untrusted data. Now you have 13 real regex patterns you can reuse and adapt in your own Python code. Like the video, subscribe to Dev Level Up, and write in the comments what Python topic or real-world example you want next.